couple things. First and foremost, you guys write stories that I like. You guys write stories I don't like. I coach practice and I leave frustrated sometimes, and I go home in a good mood sometimes. And then we play games, and sometimes we win, sometimes we don't. But the only thing that really matters at the end of the day, man, is when people actually win the real battles. And what John Whittle just went through is what it's all about, man. And it's great to see him on the call. And you guys are good people, and you work your asses off. And to see him pull through, and the way everyone rallied around for him is big time. So it's great to see John on the call. And secondly, obviously Emily's no longer with us. She's still working at the university. She's I don't know if stud is the right word for a woman, but she's been great. I'm pretty easy to work with. But I do get frustrated about some things. And one of the things I've always been frustrated about is the way basketball is sold and to a certain extent covered in this community. I never give you guys a hard time about that publicly. I might have conversations with you in private about it, but Emily would catch my wrath on that privately, across the board, from campus to off campus. And her patience and her diligence and her organization, and she's been awesome, and I've learned a lot, and she's been tremendous for our players in helping them understand how to express themselves, to represent our program, themselves, in a way that helps them as they go through their journey called life. And so she'll still be around. She's become a dear friend, as she is to most of us. And then once again, now I get to argue with John again over the coverage of basketball, but I'll take that one all the time. It's great to see him on the call.
Questions for Coach, guys? I think we should go ahead and give John the first one if he's got one.
Sure, Ken. First of all, Frank, thank you for your words. I really appreciate it, and appreciate all you guys on the call who have been very supportive and very encouraging to me. Appreciate the love and prayers from everybody out there. So thank y'all. But Frank, if I could just a little update on Jermaine. How's he doing physically, mentally? Where is he at headspace wise going into the start of the SEC play?
Yeah, it's he's had two really good practices. He's I think going home allowed him to take a deep breath and get away from the spotlight and the responsibility world of the, and it's not pressures from me or you or fans. These kids put a lot of pressure on themselves in today's day and age. To have to perform and play to a certain level. And that's why I kept saying he's got to be at peace with his body. Those were the words I kept using as he was battling the beginning of the year, first a hamstring, then the abdominal deal, whatever it was, and the ankle was like bang, 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 and not being able to practice. It's hard. He's not a 34-year-old, 12-year pro. He's still a guy trying to figure out the game. And so you need reps and you need practice. So he's been really good the last 2 days. We're no different than everyone else in the country. Okay. We went home, guys went home for Christmas. We had COVID issues. That's why the South Carolina State game was delayed. So some guys have been practicing since the 26th. Some guys started practicing 2 days ago. He's one of those. But he's been really good in practice. Great spirit. He's not limping around. I said that the other day. It's not fair to put him out there if he's going to be limping around. He's obviously in a good space right now with his body and his mind.
David?
Frank, speaking of that, are you at liberty to say if there might be any guys missing because of COVID tomorrow, and just overall, how are you feeling and how's the overall health of the team?
We're in a good place from a health standpoint. We should have everybody in uniform tomorrow. It's one of the reasons the South Carolina State game was postponed. It wasn't just them; it was both of our teams. And the new mandates that came out, shortening things to 5 days, allowed people to get back in time to be able to practice and play. If not, we would have been shorthanded against Auburn. But we should have everyone in uniform. I feel great. I feel really good. It's knock on wood. My health is good. My spirits are good. My energy's good. And the players have a lot to do with that too. Just the fact that they're out there playing, and we're not like today 7 guys, tomorrow 8 guys, the day after somebody's positive, let's shut this down again for another week. All that environment's really difficult to be a part of. And but all good, all systems go, and unless something crazy happens between now and then, we should have all 16 in uniform.
Mike Yuva?
Frank, with the number of new guys that you have this season and the obstacles that you guys have had to overcome, whether it be injuries, whether it be COVID issues, how much do you feel like you know your team going into conference play? And do you feel, I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but do you feel good enough about their identity in comparison to maybe if you didn't have to go through some of these concerns?
Yeah, the players have been great, man. I said it in the summer. I said it in the fall. They've allowed me to get to know them. They come around. They want to have conversations about not just the game or practice, but just about guys that used to play for me. And I think I told you guys back, early in the fall, like Jacoby coming around and saying, "Hey, I want to watch film of all your point guards so I can see what they did." Those kind of things. They've let me in, and I think that's why we've been able to overcome some of the challenges from a personnel standpoint. I mean, I've really been off social media for a while. Social media is just disgusting. I apologize for those of you guys that like it. I mean, the negative energy that exists there is just it's sad. It's just sad, man. It's so I can't read the nonsense. The rush to judge on a daily basis one way or the other, and it just I can't live my life that way. But I did put something on social media that basically that we're in a pretty good place right now, and we're from a one-loss standpoint from who we've beaten, and when you take into consideration that we lost the first game we played where against Princeton, who's a pretty darn good team, without our starting power forward. And then Jermaine basically had not practiced for, 3 weeks because he was coming off a hamstring pull. And, and then we turn around and we lose at Coastal. Jermaine goes down with an injury the game before. So now you go to your first road game and you're playing without your starting point guard. So you got to play with a true freshman point guard. And, that's not easy to do against a good team in a sold out arena on the road. And it didn't work out. And then we obviously go to Clemson and we're down a boatload of guys that play a whole lot of minutes for our team. And we played the game. I could have done what other people have done around the country. Say, I don't want to play a game with my reserve, so we're calling in sick today. No, that's not who we are. We went and played and we just couldn't get it done. But I think the reason that we're in a good place is because of that connection that exists player to player, player to coach, where they've given us a chance to get to know them as people so we can coach them and help them and have that next man up mindset that you got to have to get through a season.
Colin Taylor?
Frank, just to clarify, the AJ Wilson you anticipate being back for that Auburn game coming off the knee?
Yeah, he's been in practice every day since we got back from Christmas break. I actually joked with Mark Roger and him. He went home to DC for just like everyone else for I think 3.5 days or whatever. I asked his family if they flew in Dr. Miyagi, to see him while he was in DC because or Mr. Miyagi, whatever his name was. Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's because he left. He was limping pretty bad at the Army game. I'm sure you guys saw him, and he got off the plane on the 26th at night, and he was walking pretty good. And then 27th, he was full going practice. So it's Ralph Macchio must him and Ralph must be related somehow.
And I guess with Jermaine obviously back, do you look to start him back at the point guard, or is that Jacoby's spot moving forward into league play?
I'm not going to make that decision today. Jermaine's been away from the team for a while. Jermaine's a great teammate. Jermaine's, he and I've been through this for 4 years together. He's earned my trust, and but he's got to get some reps under his belt. Jacoby right now has played at a pretty good clip for our team. And I'm not going to make that decision today. I would anticipate that Jacoby will start against Auburn. That's what my gut tells me right now. I'll make that decision after practice today, but that's the direction that my mind and my guts tell me to go in right now.
Michael and Anna.
Frank, from a basketball perspective, what have you seen out of Auburn, and what are some of the keys for you guys going up against them tomorrow night?
Yeah, I mean, the keys are pretty simple. On offense, you better not take bad shots, and you better not turn it over. If you do that, they come at you like downhill, and they're high level finishing team in the open court, high level get to the foul line team in the open court. And then what have I seen from them? They obviously have a freshman that's a high level player in the young man Smith. I mean, can really shoot it, skilled, long playmaker. He's got a center in Kessler who's, he's playing at a high level right now. I mean, anyone that tries to take him on to go score on him is not being very intelligent. He's an elite defender, elite shot blocker. You don't see many like him with the ability to have the length, the willingness, and the timing to go block shots like he does. And he's evolving as an offensive player. They've done a great job with him in getting him to places where he's really scoring here. As the season's gone on, his offense has gotten better. And then on the perimeter, they've got a young man, I always forget his name, number 35, who busted our rear ends 2 years ago at their place making threes. He's from Nashville, Tennessee. Oh my God, I've got a mental block with his name, but he's really good, big time athlete, good player for him. And then his guards, Flanagan scored 30 against us last year. He's one of the top draft prospects in the SEC. He's coming back from an injury. He's played 2 games. Our game will be the third one he plays. And then on the perimeter, they've got 2 brand new guards, and Wendell Green and the young man from College of Charleston, who are both older and fearless and play hard as you know what, and tough as nails, and a young man Berman that can really shoot the basketball and is an unbelievable competitor. So that and Katie Johnson, who we played against last year at Georgia, and he also is an unbelievable competitor. So that's the makeup of their team. They're ultra aggressive on the perimeter. They've got some really hard playing guys on the perimeter, and they force you to go play at the rim. And if you make the mistake of falling victim to that prey, they've got 2 elite shot blockers in Kessler and Cardwell. And everyone thinks that, between the leg, the workout shot, the between the leg, double step back, reverse pivot, fadeaway 3 is a bad shot. Well, driving the ball and shooting it into Kessler's armpit, that's a bad shot too. And because they take those plays and make them layups on the other end, and those are unguardable. So that's kind of the makeup of what we're trying to deal with this tomorrow against Auburn.
David.
Frank, outside of last year, which was obviously a big asterisk on everything, you guys have been very successful at home against Auburn. Just thinking about those last 3 to 4 games, was there a one common key, in all those of how you guys were able to pull those wins off?
Yeah, they were young and we were old. And Bruce eventually built that program up like if you go up to the 2000, not the Final Four year, 17, 18, we were older team and they were a younger up and coming team. And then last year, heck, I think they scored more in one game than they did in the previous 3 games combined. But which I'm exaggerating, but we couldn't guard them. But but we're both in a unique situation this year because we're both coming off not very good years last year after being pretty darn good the 5 years before that. We've both kind of remade our roster with some transfers and freshmen. And we both obviously have had pretty good non-conference slate. Now we got to go figure out a way to win league games, which is a challenge for everybody, especially in this crazy conference. But I don't think there's any rhyme or reason for that, Dave. I think they at their place they've been pretty good against us, and at our place we've been pretty good against them, and that's kind of league play the way it goes.
Matt Vereen.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned earlier the COVID issues and the new policies. That's probably a big reason why you have a full roster for this game. I know that's a battle you've been fighting for a bit. Just how important, how valuable was it to see those new policies put in place ahead of SEC play?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't speak out of frustration when I said the stuff I said, back whenever it was before the Clemson game. I didn't speak out of frustration. It's just common sense. This is the 3rd basketball season where we deal with COVID. 3rd. Why are we still living in the world that we lived the first one? And we're going to do this. Let's do it. And the fact that, we have the vaccines should give us a peace of mind that we're not going to die for the most part. And as human beings, whether we choose to take the vaccine or not, we got to be able to live, man, and move forward. And I applaud the decision makers. I applaud the people that took a deep breath and allowed us to be able to accept the responsibilities that we choose to take on, to be able to play this season and keep people safe. No different. Like when guys get the flu or strep throat, they got to be away from the team while they're in that infectious stage, which is usually fever. And as soon as the fever breaks, they're deemed that they're not infecting anyone anymore. So they come back to the team. And those are a little shorter. Those are usually 2 days or something like that. But in our sport, 5 days is 2 games. It's so, being back in 5 days or being back in 10 days, it's a huge difference in basketball.
Colin.
Frank, you obviously talked a little bit about Jacoby, and you're one of those guys who said before that playing point guard for you is not easy to do. What have you seen from him to where he's able to handle that, not only playing good opponents, but playing for you, especially as a freshman?
Yeah, he lets you coach him. It's the hardest thing for young point guards is they don't realize how complicated and how difficult it is. Because they're used to being the best player on their high school team and usually best player on their AAU team, so they shoot it whenever they want. And that's not the way it works in college basketball. You can't do that because the 4 guys around you are pretty good too, and that one-on-one basketball that doesn't win anything. That ISO ball that doesn't. This isn't the NBA where the rules are skewed to take it for the real good players to take advantage of defense because you can't help and makes rotations complicated and you can't guard the post and all that other stuff. The NBA game's a different world offensively. And these kids are all being taught the game at the high school level as if they're getting ready to play in the NBA. which is fine. But then you get to college and it's not an NBA game. It's completely different. There's help side defense. You can't run ISOs in college the way you do in the NBA. Bad shots just don't work. And, we've created a grassroots culture, and I'm not taking shots at it. I was a part of it. I coached in it. I lived it. I helped build it in the late 90s. If you lose, you lose. There's another tournament next weekend, then it's okay. It's all good. That's not the world college sports are all about. We get 30 cracks at somebody. And if you lose a game, it might be the one that ruined. Like here, for example, a couple years ago, we beat Clemson at Clemson. We beat the defending national champion in their building. And all anyone wanted to talk about was the fact that we lost to Stetson. Nobody wanted to speak about the good wins. Everybody wanted to speak about the fact we lost to Stetson, and I think we lost to BU at home that year. That could be, or Stony Brook, one or the other. That's all. No one wanted to speak about the wins. No one wanted to speak about how much better the team got. Even now, 4 years later, no one says, "Wow, how we beat Virginia at Virginia that year." No, they say, "How'd you lose to Stetson?" It's the only thing that anyone ever wants to talk about, and that's the world that we live in college. So that adjustment is the biggest thing for freshman point guards. And they got 4 teammates on the court that your job as a point guard is to make sure that everyone's on the same page and know where to do things and when to give the ball, and then know what the coach wants. And then there's times that you got to run the team without the coach being involved. And that's a big responsibility. And then defensively, every time you line up, the guy you're guarding is probably a pro. So it's hard, man. It's exhausting. It's taxing.
Phil?
Good morning, Frank. It's good to see that John hasn't lost his good looks over the last couple of weeks. Off the topic of basketball, NCAA convention comes up later this month. Do you have any thoughts on what you'd like to see come out of the convention as they talk about reform and taking big-time college athletics in a whole new direction?
Yeah, I wish they can pass a rule where they can allow me to become a football coach, Phil. Because if I only have to coach 12 games a year, I'd be a lot happier rather than coaching 30 games a year. So if we can pass reform where I can start my career all over again, and they allow me to just transfer from head basketball coach to head football coach at any school, I don't care what school. Obviously not here because Shane's big time. Anywhere else. That way I only have to work 3.5 months a year. Spring football is awesome. Like everyone loves it. You get to practice. And
Wait, are you saying basketball coaches work harder than football coaches?
Well, last time I checked, our season's 6 months long, not 4. And we play 31 games plus postseason. So I'd rather, we don't get 6 days to prepare for a game. We get 48 hours. So it's, I'm not, and they make a lot more. Here's the other part, Phil. Like everyone talks about my salary. Okay, so I'm going to talk about salaries too. Football coaches make more than me. I'd rather coach football and coach 12 games and coach basketball and coach 32 games. Phil, seriously, when we're young, we don't care. At our age, when you'd like to make more money and work less, I mean, I know I would. No, I'm just being, Phil. Truth be told, this is something that we've been doing in the NABC, and I fully support it and fully believe in it. Our sport is unique to college athletics. Women's basketball, they stay in college for 4 years. Football, they stay in college for 3 years. Baseball, they stay in college for 3 years. Our sport, there's that one and done rule that the NBA has in place. Our sport is different. Our sport is just, it's a different animal. I think men's basketball needs to have its own governing body, and it needs to have its own set of rules different from all the other sports. I'm not talking about recruiting. I'm not talking about academics. I'm talking about, when I mean recruiting, I mean cheating. I think all that needs to be hammered and dealt with. I'm talking about recruiting calendars. I'm talking about the whole, the transfer deal. I mean, everyone's making a big deal of the portal. Why? Because it's finally infected football. It's been infecting us for the last 7 years. Just go look at the numbers in men's basketball for the last 7 years, but no one really paid attention to it because it wasn't happening in football. Now it's attack football. So now all of a sudden it's a huge deal. We've been trying to figure that one out, but our sport is unique because of some of the agents' involvement in what we do, whether to have them around or not have them around. Just too many things. But the biggest component to our sport is the fact that guys come in for a year and leave. That doesn't happen in any other sport. So we got to figure out a way. I think we got to have a unique set of rules for men's basketball.
Alex Jones.
Frank, Chico Carter had back-to-back strong games against Clemson and Army. What did you see from him in those games, and what do you want to see from him moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I played him more off the ball, which eliminated that point guard responsibility off his plate, which allowed him. I've said it from day one. He can really shoot the ball, and it gave him some opportunity. I don't think he'd ever done anything wrong. He just got outplayed in practice by other guys, and that's part of competition. That's life. It's that don't make you good or bad. That's just that moment. Now, what's made him good? He didn't run home and cry. He didn't call his dad and say, "I hate it here. I should never have come here." He rolled up his sleeves and he kept coming every single day. And his family has been unbelievably supportive of that, of the decision of him being here and the journey that he's on right now. And now, because of injury, COVID, whatever, his number got called. And to his credit, he performed. And I tell players all the time, it's their job to make my job really, really hard. If you come in and you don't listen to what I tell you to do, you don't go to class, you don't play very well, you made my job easy. I don't have to play you. But if you do everything I ask you to do, and when you get an opportunity, you perform, you made my job really hard. I got to figure out a way to play you now. And he's done that. And that's a credit to him and his teammates. It's, I've got to figure out a way to keep throwing him out there. And when I said I've played him off the ball more, doesn't mean that's why he succeeded. He actually, when he played at the point with Jermaine not being around, he played a lot better than he did the previous month at the point. But that it's all connected. We have a tough time in society dealing with staying the course these days. It's we want to jump to conclusions from 1 minute to the next. He had not done anything wrong. Other guys just played a little better than him. And the fact that I've been around Jermaine for a long time, and Jermaine's a pretty good player, I've got a certain level of confidence in Jermaine come game time that I have not gotten there with Chico yet a month ago. Well, I was forced to get there with Chico, and he performed. So I'm really proud of him. I'm really, really proud of how he's played, the aggression he played with, the growth that he's shown, and the fact that he has stayed the course, man. He didn't make it about himself. He's made it about us and continued to be a good teammate.
All right. I see two more hands raised, so we got time for two more. And we got a couple players to get to, Eric Stevenson and Jermaine. So we'll go ahead, David, and then John.
Overall, Frank, the start of another conference season, 18 games, it's a grind. You've had 4 winning conference seasons in your previous tenure. Just, how exciting is it? How do you talk to your guys about saying, every game's important, but we've got 18 of these to go?
Well, here's the good thing. By that March 10th date, more or less, I don't even know when it ends. When I get on this call with you guys, I'll have Phil looking good. That's how bad I'll look. Phil be looking like a stud when I get on that call, in about 8 weeks or whatever it is. But no, it's hard, man. It's hard. And, Jermaine, Keyshawn, Eric Stevenson comes from the Pac-12 and the league and that he was in with Wichita, which is big time basketball. James Reese comes from North Texas. They won their league back-to-back years, so he knows what it takes. Wildens, he's been through this thing. We've got a lot of guys that fully understand if you live in up and down, you struggle in league play. You've got to have a certain emotional composure the day after a game. because it's you can't show up and celebrate. Like I told the team yesterday, if we figure out a way to beat Auburn, like we got to go to Vanderbilt. We ain't won there since Hassani Grabbit was here. It's so what good does it do to celebrate a win if you're not going to prepare to go play the next game? And once Auburn and Vanderbilt's over, Tennessee ain't calling in sick. We're no pun intended with COVID. They're not calling in sick. You got to play that one. So there's an emotional balance that you got to have on the day after a game to understand that you signed up for 18. You didn't sign up for 1 win or 2 wins or 7 wins. You signed up to play 18 games. And I think we're in a good place when it comes to that right now.
Last question goes to John Whittle.
Your 3 freshmen have played really well so far this year. Good, bad, different, having so long between games for those guys. Just is it a good mental break, or would you rather have them, in it and engaged every minute right now?
I think 2 things. I think number 1, for Jacoby, it was really good to take a break, as it was for Taquan Woodley, because those 2 guys had not been able to separate, and the responsibility of having to perform to help your team. That's hard, man. It's hard. It's hard to walk into practice the next day if you lined up in a game and you just were bad. When you're young, that's a hard moment to be in. But those 2 guys have done it. Now with Devin Carter, I think because you saw the energy he played with against Army, because he kind of took that little break for COVID reasons, before the Army game. So with Devin, I would have rather, which he did. He came back and he's been great in practice, but I wish we would have played South Carolina State game for Devin, because he had already taken that little window break. Freshmen need a deep breath every once in a while, man. And you can ask, when you speak with them, you can ask them, they'll tell you the speed, the physicality, the expectations for daily responsibility in practice, the matchups, how hard the other teams play. It's a learning process to go through that. And sometimes they get engulfed and they need that moment to just take a deep breath and let somebody put their arm around them and say, hey man, you're actually doing pretty good. This isn't as easy as it was in high school. It's going to be all right. And I think that's what's happened with all 3. I think the break is going to help. Like I said, Jacoby and TQ. With Devin, he already had that break. I wish I could have played that South Carolina State game for him. But it is what it is. Devin's a competitor. Devin's a really good player. He's coming for you every single play. He's going to all 3 of those guys. They've gotten better as the years gone on.